So a fresh best of 3. In the top left, it is Spatz, the blue Protoss player. And in the bottom right, we do have the red Terran, BattleB for Berserker Esports. Spatz might not actually be on a team anymore. I'm not sure about that, but it's very possible. Not representing anyone anyway. That's on them. If I don't know, they don't have it on the clan tag. That's on them. Anyway. So BattleB, we just saw take down a Zerg player named Mats. Did seem like BattleB overall slightly stronger player. Now facing Spatz, I actually don't know who is statistically favored. My gut says this should be kind of equal, but then I'm not 100% certain about that, and I'm definitely not certain about their preferred matchups. So, for all I know, Spatz hates playing versus Terran, and BattleB hates playing versus Protoss, so they actually kind of have like an MMR decrease for this particular matchup. Or the opposite, or some other variation, whatever, right? So I can try and look up some of their past results. They must face each other at least a couple of times. The seeding of the Open Cups doesn't actually change all that much, so if they face each other one time in the Open Cup, it's very likely they face each other many times in the Open Cup. I was right. It's not all that much. Yeah. Only played 13 matches overall, but as of recently, Spatz has taken the lead only slightly. 2-1 and 2-1, and then before that, BattleB actually 3-0'd him in a qualifier. I think I actually kind of remember that. So Spatz might be a little more favored as of recent, but they're both close series, and BattleB is already throwing in some disruptions, which could make Spatz very uncomfortable. And as a Protoss player, you kind of have to take this on the chin. The engineering bay block that BattleB was able to get up and running at a very high health means that the probe pull wouldn't work against it. Waiting for a Zealot to pop out if you weren't already building one is just not going to be worth it. And so you do take that third as your natural, but this is what the Protoss has to be wary of, is that their third is now no longer defended by that small of a choke. And there's now multiple entrances into the third / natural, and there's one big fat entrance into the main base, which is your heart, where all the arteries go to. So this is usually a big concern for the Protoss players, because so often the follow-up, okay, what the hell is the Zealot doing here? He did get a Zealot. I just completely missed that. Okay, and then it was like, maybe BattleB actually canceled the engineering bay because he saw the Zealot. All right, interesting. Well, the point is less about the Zealot itself and more about the fact that it got into the main base, because usually the follow-up to an engineering bay block is the factory. And a big reason for that is that it is actually just scary. There's multiple things that can come out of the factory that the Protoss can't know for certain and can't really change up their response to a whole lot, but still they could be kind of mentally prepared if it's Hellions versus Cyclones versus Wintermines into an eventual drop, right? So, that's usually a big threat because it can be early, mid, a little bit later as far as an attack goes as well. When you get into the main base and you see exactly what a factory is producing, or alternatively, you see that there is no factory and that there's actually a 3-Rax on the way, I mean, the Protoss should actually be feeling very, very, very cool about this game. A 3-Rax can still be tricky to defend. I don't want to misrepresent that, but Spatz, with that Zealot somehow getting into the main base easy peasy. Totally missed that one. Basically got like the green light. There was some hesitation, I'm sure, before that Zealot confirmed that it was a 3-Rax, but as soon as it saw the Rax still on the forward position, that was already a very good piece of information. And then to see further that there's additional barracks, no factory, that you're waiting for that stim timing first, which means that if you were maybe holding back on a chrono, or you were going to grab a defensive unit first, maybe you actually grab those couple of probes first, then the defensive unit, then the shield batteries, time out your defense perfectly so you can fit in as much of that lead as possible, ideally. Much like we would say a Zerg player would do. But it is, like I said, not the easiest thing to defend, even if you know it's on the way. Because the Terran can just not do the stim timing. So You don't have to go with the stim timing. You can go into the medevacs. You can then push out at that point, and you still have a very fearsome army. The problem then is that you don't have a lot of flexibility with the movements because your medevac count's kind of low. And then a big problem with this is that if the Protoss does successfully get to Colossus before dying or taking extreme damage, then your Colossus actually do at some point take the main stage. Though the bio number is high and hopefully a lot of Marauders too. Oh, the Observer's going to die. The Colossus don't have a true direct answer. The medevac energy will become increasingly lower as the bio is forced to stim to try and maneuver around. And then the Vikings are going to, maybe not even exist at all because the Terran might say, I need those medevacs to pose to the Vikings. But I talk about Colossus because that is such a typical way of playing TVP nowadays. Actually, Spatz is going to go ahead and go for a Templar Archives and a War Prism. Some fast Storm could be in play here, but not fast enough to actually be ready for the first push out. Bio's already moving out. Medevac's going to join up. Actually, no, I think he's going to go for a drop. Obviously, with our God Vision, we can kind of see that, right? If Spatz doesn't see... Oh, I love the Hallucinated Colossus. Excellent addition. Oh, I really like that. Okay, so I was going to say, if he doesn't see medevacs with this push, he's going to eventually you start to question it, like, okay, what's happening here? You should be teaming up, and actually, you probably should have more units, too. You've been on 3 racks for so long. But it's very easy to get those horse blinders on. It's very easy to think that you've just taken a W. The 2 medevacs are flying into that natural, completely unaware. Spatz does have a recall. But now the question is, does he lose this advantageous position on the forefront, right? Does he actually pull back? I feel like he does, because, I mean, you certainly have to remember that that Colossus is not real, but this is a very injured army, stemmed up twice, I believe, to escape from the front lines. Force field starting to dissect this. Widow Mine's popping off, though. Getting the splash on all those units, taking out the Immortal Shields as well. SCV's pulled into the mix. Stalkers not particularly good in a scenario like this. Really would love a couple more Zealots, but the Immortals still stand strong, not being taken down. Punching through a lot of the units here, but the bio on the other side of the map is also still doing damage. Nexus 1 and 2 goners, and the 3rd Nexus could be in trouble as well. Where's the rest of Spatz's army? He has lost so much. One Immortal apparently fell on the front lines. More Stalkers that were reinforcing also falling, not able to get on top of that Terran production. And I think, oh my god, like, I really don't think this is actually how it was supposed to go, but BattleB is going to win this game. Spatz was getting a 4th base, I think, before all of this happened. Or maybe just thought that this was going to go into like full base trade mode and was preparing for that. But a 4th Nexus is done. Probe successfully mining. The target was the Nexus. So a lot of the production of Spatz is still up and running. But BattleB, he's got 3 command centers. He's got 3 orbitals. So 3 mules. His SCV count wasn't really, I think, punished in the same way. Oh, the Widow Mine takes out the War Prism. Goodbye. Yeah, it wasn't punished in the same way that Spatz's economy was, and mules, right? Mules are just super good. No shield battery in sight. Army on the left, army on the right. A Marines take down an Immortal. More probes die. 3rd Nexus going to fall as well. And yeah, this is 100% BattleB's game. But what a crazy turn of events. Very difficult game to call in the heat of the moment. I want to just disclaimer that first and foremost, but I do think that, with the Colossus committing to the attack of the natural, probably a good idea, because he would have killed the natural army much faster and the SCVs as well, and then probably would have gotten to the main to camp production if there was a Colossus. And it still would have been kind of close because, 1 Colossus actually isn't that much damage dealing. And, well, the point is that was actually halluc. That wasn't real. So without a Colossus, and you're talking about a pure Stalker Immortal army going up against injured bio, but with an SCV pool, I mean, that is exactly what occurred there. It's actually way more muddled. SCV pool is very effective against Stalker Immortal combination, actually. Any amount of bio helping it along goes such a long distance when SCVs are tanking on the front line. And then, yeah, just the inability to reinforce at home. Maybe I miss a supply block, or he did reinforce on the front line. Actually, that was a choice he eventually made. I think the recall would have been better, but very difficult to call in the heat of the moment. Yep. On the bottom right now, down a game, it is Spatz or Spatz, and in the top left we do have a BattleB. Thank you, Nom Nami. Thank you, Roar075. All right, so what an interesting game one. Spatz going to be going up to eventually a lot of charge lots and Archons and Storm. Was forced to make that maneuver, to make that decision just before really getting to that point. Because not only the Templar Archives only just finished, not really giving them a lot of time to produce Archons, which would have been very effective. And one Archon plus a shield battery against an increasingly injured bio army running around with energyless medevacs, like that Archon would have been amazing. But wasn't quite there yet. Couldn't get them warped in or whatever happened. He also had finished charge. But, oh my god, what a disastrous start for game 2 after a game 1 like that. Oh my god. But then also, yeah, he didn't actually get to warp in a lot of charge lots. And one thing you don't want to do, and he's right to do what he did in a fashion, is you don't want to produce a minimal number of charge lots against bio medevac. Just imagine how that looks. If there's like 5 zealots, yeah, they have charge, but their first impact doesn't kill any of the units, and then they're just slow dummies running after bio that's, you know, going crazy on the map. So Spatz was right not to try and like default to zealots just because he had charge, just because that was eventually going to be his plan, just because eventually 15 charge lots would be really good. He was right to go for the stalker warping that he did, but again, it was already at this time where the natural had been mostly defended. The main base ended up being impenetrable, and again, the zealots back defensively also would have just gotten cutted around, and it looks pretty much useless. So it did all start with BattleB's kind of risk-taking with the medevac drop, going instantly into the medevac drop rather than having any amount of play on the first attack with medevacs, because again, that is so common. You'll move out when stim combat shields +1 are all finishing around that, and the medevacs will join up later, and the Protoss is also very aware of this. They know that that is a thing that Terran will do. And like I said, there's kind of a tell if there's just no medevacs pairing up with the first wave. But in a game of StarCraft, when you think you've also managed to kind of nip it in the bud, you might be thinking those medevacs are like already F2'd home. You know, because BattleB realized he messed up. Like, it's difficult to say, like, oh, you should have noticed. I don't think that's quite true, but it might have been a little bit of a hint that if Spatz wasn't so gung-ho on getting his own counterattack in, if he had just stayed at home and been like, okay, great, I dealt with that first wave, no problem. Well, then the second wave, the actual drop of units would have been handled fairly easily. Nexus would have survived. Probes probably would have died, sure, but then we're on Charge Lot Archon. And BattleB's tendency to be aggressive actually could have started to harm him. It just could have been so different. Last game was interesting, sorry. But there's a game going on now, and it is a 1 racks expand into 3 racks once again. BattleB, big fan of the 3 racks. I gotta say, as far as builds go against Protoss, this is a pretty effective one up until a certain skill level. Not to say that I'm anywhere close to these guys, or that, you know, Spatz is perpetually stuck dying against 3 racks because he's just not good enough. But rather that it is a kind of fact. The 3 racks not seen amongst those top 24 players are going to see at a world championship. Maybe 1 or 2 kind of subtle, clever ones, okay, but you're not going to see it very often there. You're going to see it a lot amongst this league, which is still pretty freaking damn good at StarCraft 2. But it just requires a little more want to say cleverness, but that's not a good enough word. It just requires a little bit more of being comfortable being led around, I would say. You know, if you're a Protoss player who likes to take control, who's very familiar with the beats of like defend the Widowmine drop, go for the Stalker play with pressure, then deal with the main army, then go for the Colossus attack, then like you've got the gist down against most Terran openers. But at 3 racks, you're the one that's going to have to think about defending first. And again, that key, not over-defending, not under-defending. So it's kind of like a little more of a subtle way to defend, I suppose. And right now we see Spatz having a stronger reaction, really, to, I think, what he knows that BattleB is most likely to do. His observer does see the 2nd barracks and presumably knows about the 3rd. Just that timing on the tech lab, and I don't know if that was the barracks or not. But anyway, I think he would know. So his choice was to go for a kind of supremely safe 2-base Colossus with Forge. That 3rd Nexus delayed in comparison to many other Protoss builds, but the hope is that you actually get that up and running first and foremost. Unfortunately, the Marines heading into the natural was the one move that Spatz was not anticipating. That Colossus, mere seconds away from being perfectly timed. If that thing had popped out as the Marines stimmed and rushed up the ramp, maybe it dies, but it probably takes a lot of Marines down with it and probably stops the probes from dying in this number. Maybe only 8 die instead of 18. However, while 18 probes looks like a good thing for BattleB, let's actually stop and look here. He lost the left side attack, and he lost all those Marines on the right side. The Colossus did not die, so that's something you're going to always have, ideally. And the 3rd Nexus was not canceled. And I actually think a 3rd Nexus cancel would have been a bigger boon, actually, than the 18 probes. Obviously, you reduce them down to 2 probe building at a time, but they would have been perfectly saturated on 2 bases, so they're not really interested in probe building, but they are interested in getting that down and transferring probes. You cancel it once. It would have been like a 60-second delay in the 3rd Nexus. I don't know, actually. Maybe 18 probes actually is better. I mean, if it was 8, like I said, then definitely 3rd Nexus Night, but okay. Regardless, like, Spat's actually not even going to replace any of these probes, which I think is a really good idea. Colossus is going to be picked up and microed here. 2nd Colossus is hallucinated. It's BattleB. Even if he figured this out, his units will not automatically fire away from the hallucination. They will get tricked, even if Spat's BattleB is not. A scan will have to come down to ensure his AI doesn't work against him. There you go. There it sees now. If he attacked, they would only focus the real Colossus, which is actually injured, by the way. So as it gets closer... Oh, no, the tank just on siege. It's very unfortunate. It would have helped out. Now it's going to help out maybe a little bit. It's not really. Zealots in the natural distracting. Army on that 3rd base did not end up standing a chance. Where the hell did it go? And that tank... the tanks, plural now, would have been much... more helpful if they were in position, ready to go. Because they are the only thing dealing with that Colossus, really. And 2 tanks up against slow Zealots also would have been quite a lot of damage. The Observer here has just been positioned this entire time. Also something that has given Spatz just a world of knowledge. Knowing that he can attack, where to avoid, not getting shot by those tanks. War Prism goes into the main for extra SCV damage. 26 SCVs have gone down. 3rd CC was lifted and saved. And like I had just briefly mentioned, Spatz did not produce more probes. Instead, focusing all of his intent on the attack, which I actually thought was really a good idea. BattleB had just sacrificed all of his army and was going to take a little time to actually produce it again, even though he has 3 barracks. But it didn't actually kill BattleB, and this is where I'm like, wait a second. Is BattleB still capable of winning this? I think technically yes, but obviously going to be difficult as charge lots now enter into the field. Multi-pronged attacks going to be difficult to handle. One tank on that high ground doing a lot of damage here, but not focus firing, I believe. Now doing a little focus firing, but it looks like BattleB is going to tap out. And if he had lost... I actually don't think he needed to tap out. Oh no. I actually don't think he needed to tap out. I don't blame him because that was a very difficult game to read. But the supplies are actually dead even. He had taken out a huge Zealot dedication in the main base with well-positioned bio and a choke. The front was a little sketchy, but he had a lot of units. Still actually ready. Okay, good. I don't know, guys. That was tough. The warp prism had, had just dumped those zealots, so it wouldn't have been reinforcing the front. I think his medevac count was alive. Not great, but it was there. I don't know. That's all right. Well, you can't take it back. No take backsies on the GG moment. So, maybe he could have continued playing. Maybe he knew that, but realized, just was like, this is too bad of a game. Let's just cut our losses. Or he actually thought it was a way worse position, because he might not have realized how much Spatz had not probed up. I mean, Spatz is only ahead by like 8 probes, which is basically perfect for a Terran on 2 base with 2 mules. If he ever got that 3rd CC down again, then he would actually be 3 base versus 3 base. It's not a done deal. It's not like he actually won a fight and won the game and then tapped out Idra style, but I think it was a little more questionable than when he tapped out. All right, bottom left of game 3 now between these two. It is Spatz, and on the bottom top right, it is BattleB. Spatz gonna go for a probe scouts. That actually looks a little more nefarious than a probe scout. Yeah, he's actually gonna go for something a little bit dirty, a little bit cheesy. That probe taking a long way around, ending up at BattleB's eventual 4th. BattleB would have to actually send something out in that direction to get a tell on this happening. He's 1 racks expanding, possibly into the 3 racks once again, and this might be exactly why Spatz is doing what he's doing. Not only to get him some control over the game, because remember last game he was kind of forced to react more, but also because when you do 1 racks expand 3 racks, you're missing that critical defensive structure, the factory. Eventually, your 3 barracks, when they're all completed and have their add-ons, do produce a fine number of bio units. But it takes a long time for all of those things to happen. The 2 additional barracks to finish, the reactors to finish, the tech lab to finish. Marauders, aren't actually all that great when they're coming out. There's 2 of them, right? And they're easily target fired. This could be questionable, but BattleB not going to go for 3 racks. He's changing things up. He's also scouting for the proxy gates. This must be a dynamic between the 2 in the past. And if it is, good on BattleB for remembering it. If it's not, and BattleB just realizes that he's made a pattern that he is now purposefully, going away from, it's actually very smart. It still might be tricky to hold against this, though. Here's the problem. That bunker's not done. That factory's not finished. And the Cyclone will not be out for a little while. So the bunker especially does need to finish up here. Marine number 1 goes down. SCV goes down, but backup SCV does finish the bunker. And that is 1 Marine in 1 bunker. High ground's going to have to be at least held as far as not letting the units in, I was going to say. You're going to lose the depot almost certainly, but if it gives you time to build a Hellion, I don't know about the Hellion, man. The Cyclone should be on the way. Uh-oh. BattleB might still be in some trouble, guys. 1 Hellion does not do a whole lot against these Stalkers. It doesn't even do that much against the Zealot. I mean, if it had to, micro forever and ever, I guess it could, but I don't know. Adept's going to shade in as well. BattleB, I think he actually had a better chance against this, but scouting it and then still trying to defend the natural might have been the first problem. Getting a Hellion instead of a Cyclone, possibly because it's the only thing he could afford, is the second problem. I think actually waiting and producing the Cyclone might have been better. I imagine it was a mineral problem because his gas is totally fine. This is brutal, actually. The Cyclone pops and, it'll obviously deal with it, but the damage has been done. 10 SCVs went down. Significant delay on the actual orbital in the natural, too, because he was just out of cash. Trade on the army as well, so as the Stalkers died, it wasn't a total one-sided battle. Anyway, and, Spatz does have his own Nexus up and running, so chronoing the probes now with 10-worker lead. He is going to keep that, or better, I would imagine. He's got Adepts constantly threatening the main base, too. As long as the supply depot is not put up there, I think it would be worth putting one down again. BattleB agrees. That's a lot of Adepts at this point. Cyclone thankfully went out to do a little bit of scouting and finds out what the situation is without dying. That's kind of the most important thing. And the Adepts will actually finish. They might not have expected that other supply depot to be prepared. Oh no, that's actually really awkward. Well, 5 SCVs still go down. There's like... I don't even know how to explain it. We're watching like two 20-year-olds try and like flirt with each other, and they're both interested in each other, but they both are still a little uncertain of themselves, you know? So it's like awkward every so often. I feel like there were chances for both players to play like an ultra fine game. Like really just details making it perfect for one side or the other, and now it's more like awkward unhooking of a bra or something. Anyway, 15 worker difference. Spatz certainly in the lead, having saturated his minerals at this point. Also gonna start working on his gas. He's got a Warp Prism on the way, actually. Blink only just starting. 3 gateways total thanks to that proxy gateway. You know, kind of forming this into a Blink Stalker attack, but the Robo came down first, so it's not, you know, with Blink, but yeah. Again, kind of a little awkward. 2 Cyclones picked up on the Medivac. Very bold choice from someone who apparently is being constantly under attack, because that proxy gateway has been churning out units. And BattleB, what a risk taker, man. Just picks up 2 very important defensive units to go for a little harassment. And I say a little because Cyclones are actually kind of bad at really doing proper harassment. Like, you have to leave them alone for a long time for them to kill a bunch of probes. And that did not happen. 1 Cyclone goes down. That clearly was a recall, though. Or, I should say, for us, it was clearly a recall. For BattleB, it's just a clear indication that the Stalkers are not on his front line, as my mouse dies. So that's why he feels confident moving out like this, but the Warp Prism's around, and that's something that Spatz was not aware of. He did see the Robo, but, you know, whether that was for a couple of observers or eventually a Colossus is something that he doesn't know. And it actually was produced to get this harassment going, again, before Blink is done, but 4 Stalkers, one-shotting SCVs, taking advantage of BattleB's lack of units as well. He just had his Cyclones on the front line, he doesn't have that many Marines, and a tank would help to cover large portions of your base, but that was also something that Spatz could have realized there would not be a lot of. And even if that tank had been at home, yeah, only 1 tank wouldn't have quite cut it. Second tank now makes it so that, you know, ideally a Terran player should never be harassed like that. But it's in a perfect world. 9 more SCVs died thanks to that harassment. 13 worker lead still held here for Spatz as he grabs a 3rd Nexus. Little supply block by the looks of things, but fixing it. Raven harassment. Okay, but very quick response from Spatz. Did not end up catching the Protoss looking some other directions. That's a little unfortunate, but that Raven will be there in forever, I guess. I don't know if it's going to try and come home. Did not grab Interference Matrix, so it's really all it can do is that auto turret harassment. This is a solid setup, actually. Bunker will be targeted. That takes 1 aspect of the defense away. Stalkers sacrifice for it, however. Not ideal. Lots of Stalkers also getting injured. A little clumped up in that tank range. BattleB, you know, certainly in the right to still be trying to play and win this game. Despite things ultimately going more awkward for him, I think. I'm saying that with like 80% certainty. You know, it's still close enough. I do think that with how much time it's taken BattleB to really get to a proper Terran position, 3 barracks, factory, starport, upgrades finished, that position isn't even actually here yet. It's getting there. Having to choose between all medevac production or, you know, adding this one little cheeky Viking is also kind of disruptive to the true Terran goal of the mid-game. Yeah, I think Spatz is going to be the winner here. Supplies are actually showing Spatz being in a precarious scenario, but it's deceiving. He has the map control, he has the threat of the Warp Prism, even as the Viking pops out, that can always come in later and dive bomb with Zealots. He's got good vision with the Observer, he's got Stalker presence on the map, he's got 3 bases, mineral saturated, Colossus number 3 is on the way, Shield Battery obviously going to help out, +1 weapons already done for the Protoss, +2 on the way. This is the one punch that is hopefully going to work for BattleB. I actually would not mind an SCV pool. I think he has no other choices anyway. The scan sees 2 Colossus and a couple of force fields. Already a bad sign. That's not even the entirety of Spatz's army. His stalkers are coming in from the right side. Some were on the left, but I think they moved. Recall on the Warp Prism by the looks of things, as Spatz realizes that if he just holds, he's in a pretty fine position. BattleB not going to all in, obviously. Also grabbing a 3rd CC, but it's just not that actually intimidating of a Terran position. Only 3 medevacs means that this is really the only drop. Any other attempt to attack will be medevacless. Colossus almost running into its death. That would have been nice for BattleB. It's actually kind of like a cheeky spot. I don't know if it's really the best idea, though. Because, yeah, Zealots come in and then kind of ruin the tank's power. That's exactly what happened. Despite some Wintermines trying to stop that from occurring, the tanks do get taken out without focus firing to try and even get some damage on the better units here. And BattleB, even if his Marines were in position, I think they would have gotten slaughtered. So it's actually better that he retreats. It still, again, gives him a very poor position in the overall context of the game. +2 almost done for Spatz, as he also has that Warp Prism bringing up the rear, and that is going to be that. Funnily enough, a very similar supply ending once more, but I think this game it was actually obvious how it was going to go. It really would have depended on Spatz severely messing up. That second game, though, I'm really in question. That second game I got to see again, you know? I got to get BattleB to play it from replay or something.